I want to introduce the second design in my Nua Collection Volume 2 today. It's also a garment, but this time we've got a sweater rather than a cardigan. Now, hang on, come up here. And somebody wants to say hello also, because he's just going to rip up my jeans otherwise. This one is the Korat sweater, and it's designed to have a very simple colour work pattern worked in it. I was traditionally not overly fond of colour work designs because I find they can get a little bit fussy. But I like the technique, and I really wanted to find something that, all right, down you go, Jasper. I really wanted to find something that was me, and eventually I came across this particular design, and it just had a nice simplicity to it, and it really made the colours pop. So it felt like just the perfect design to use for a sweater. Now, the way this is put together is it's a really simple construction. It's designed to be an oversized sweater that's worked in the round from the bottom up. Now, when it's oversized, you've got a couple of things you need to bear in mind. You want, obviously, it not to look like a complete tent on you. So there's a couple of things you can do to try and make sure that doesn't actually happen. First of all, if you keep it so that it's not too long, a little short or cropped can help a bit so that it's wider, but it kind of flows a little bit with it. And also things like the sleeves, if they fit a bit better and they're not extra long as well, but perhaps 3/4 length or no longer than the wrist, it also gives it a kind of a tidier feel to the whole sweater. So if you keep those in mind, if you make any adjustments to your sweater, it means that you're going to get a better fit. So it starts down here. You can see with the contrast color on the inside. So you've got a provisional cast on. You work as far as here. You do a purl row that's a turning hem, and then you work up here. And you undo your provisional cast on and knit the front and the back together so that you create that fold as you're actually working the hem of the sweater. So it means you don't have to come back and sew anything in place. The whole thing happens while you're actually working with it. The contrast color here is one of my favorites. It's Frog on the Wall, and the main color of the sweater is August Storms, which is kind of a dark gray with purpley overtones, a bit like those huge grey clouds you're going to see on August days or late summer days when you're going to have a huge thunderstorm. The other colors you have here then in the color work are, the bottom one is Hatter's Teal Party, so really bright teal. And again, you come back to your Frog on the Wall, and up here you have, what is it? That's Angry Monkeys. It's a brighter red. What you want to make sure when you pick your colors is you have a contrast between the background and the main color. A good way of doing that is if you go ahead and take a photograph of the colors you're thinking of using and put it in black and white, and see if they'll kind of pop out at you. You could also, it will work quite well with this if you flipped it around and you made the background a darker color, like perhaps a Bare Necessities might be nice, and then you can make these a series of darker colors down there, so that way you just reverse which one is going to be the dominant and which one is going to be the recessive. So this then, after that, you continue your work up to here, and at the top you separate for front and back, and you just work the front up here and the back up here. You can see the very top section is worked in garter stitch, and one reason for that is to kind of create a bit of interest, but also it means that when you work your short rows up here, there's a German short rows, they're really easy to work in garter stitch. So by actually having it in garter stitch, you're simplifying the whole process for yourself. Then after that, you pick up the sleeves around the armhole and do decreases and work your way down. You can see you've got another little bit of colour work edging here. And at the very edge, then you've got just garter stitch and one of my favourite edgings, an I-cord edging. So, you know, pretty straightforward construction. The big thing is just trying to figure out what size you want and what colours you want, and you can kind of play around with it. If you do a little bit of a swatch with this, it'll help enormously because you can see if the colours are going to jump out and give you enough contrast to make it of interest.